Hello everyone, this is Raj. Welcome to the world of Salesforce. Today is the day 55 class where we are going to discuss object oriented programming features. Right? In this object oriented programming, we are going to discuss what is a class, how we are going to define a class, right? And what is an object, how we are going to define an object, right? All these things we are going to discuss today. Okay. So object oriented programming features. So how to implement business logics? First of all, how to implement business logics here, right? Apex is nothing but a object oriented programming language, cloud based. Apex is a cloud based object oriented programming language. Each business logic is implemented in the form of a class and object, right? Each business logic are going to implement in the form of a class and objects. Right? Business logic in the sense like save, update, fetch, delete, all these things. Right? So now what is a class here? So it contains a set of properties. It contains a set of properties. Okay, which is known as a simply like blueprint. Right? We can say like a blueprint. So this class contains an object. Each and everything in this world is an object. Let us say human being. Example, I'm taking a human being. So human being is a class. Human being is a class. In that class, so let's say what is the name of that person? So let's say Ramesh, Suresh, Kumar. All these are nothing but objects. Now you got it right. What is the age of that person? What is the date of birth? Date of birth of that person? Human being is a class. In that class, whatever the classifications are there, like defining it in order to in that class, we are going to define all these things like name of the person, age of the person, date of birth of the person. Okay, so those are nothing but objects. So let me take one more example here. Pen. Pen is a class. So in that pen, we are having different colors, different models. Those are nothing but objects. Right? So a class contains a set of like set of members, right? So what is a class here? Class is nothing but a prototype, or we can say that blueprint, or we can say a physical entity, right? What is a class here? It is nothing but a physical entity or prototype or blueprint. Contains a set of members inside it, set of properties or members inside it. Okay. A class can have number of variables. Okay, a class can have um, a class can have number of variables here. Okay, a class can have one or more variables, properties, constructors, procedures, functions, right? Inside this particular class. Right? In order to access those class members, we need a reference called as an object. Okay, we need a reference called as an object. Now you got it right. What is an object is? So generally a class can have one or more variables in it. So more variables, or we can say properties, constructors inside it. So in order to access class members, we need some reference called, right? So in order to access these class members, in order to access this class variables, in order to access this class procedures, functions. So we need some reference. That reference is known as object. Reference is known as object. So now what is an object here? So object is a logical entity. Class is a physical entity, right? Class is a physical entity. Object is a logical entity. So it contains the values for the class members. What object contains? Contains values for class members. Okay. Object is also called as instance of a class. Okay. We can have one or more objects also for a class. For every class, we can have one or more objects. Right? Different. It can hold like different values also. Each object can hold a different values for the class members. And so it is holding some values, right? So obviously some memory is allocated for it. Memory is always be allocated for an object. Right, it can support the dynamic memory allocation. So during the runtime it can shrink, it can expand. Right, it supports the dynamic memory allocation. So what is the use of the dynamic allocation? In the before class, while discussing the array concept, I told you, right? So while because of not having this dynamic allocation, there is a lot of memory wastage will be there. So it supports the dynamic memory allocation, so that in order to avoid the memory wastage, right, each object contains its own memory allocation. Okay. So now let us discuss what are the features that are involved in this object-oriented programming. Features, or we can say pillars. What are the four pillars? There we are having four pillars here. So encapsulation. In during the degree, I think you know all these concepts, right? Encapsulation, abstraction, right? Inheritance. So during some examples while practicing, all this we are going to cover. Okay, polymorphism. Right, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Right, what is encapsulation? Simply I will tell just now small definitions for these four, and during while practice we can discuss if needed, if we can discuss each one by one. Okay, so during examples. So what is encapsulation here? So for this you can remember one, let's say capsule tablets. Right, in that particular capsule we are having some medicine inside it, right? So the same example here, so it contains a group of functionalities mixed together. Capsule is nothing but a class, right? In that some we are having medicine, right? For every capsule we are having some medicines. So in that medicine, like here in this concept, medicine is nothing but a group of functionalities mixed together inside a class. It is nothing but a encapsulation. Like for example, variables, properties, right, constructors. What is a constructor? I will tell you in the coming classes. Okay. Grouping together. So in a particular class, where we are going to group all these functionalities, variables, properties, constructors, grouping together inside a class, which is nothing but an encapsulation. Right? So it is used to group a set of members together in a single entity. Right? So how we are going to achieve this in this particular coming to this Apex examples? So like a classes and interfaces simply. So encapsulation can be achieved with the help of classes and interfaces. Okay, that is about encapsulation. Now coming to this abstraction. So for this small example, abstract means in your lower classes where you have studied some project overviews while submitting the project documents, right? In that you are having some abstract in the first page. In the first page you are having some abstract. So where in that abstract you are going to explain the complete project, a simple overview. The project overview you are going to display in that particular page in a single page. Right? Inside this overall 50 pages matter you are going to cover in a single page. And whoever the team members, all the relevant information will be there in the abstract. Right? It is nothing but a high level idea of a project. It will not give the complete information. Just it will give the high level idea of a complete project. So now coming to this Apex class, abstraction is used to provide the interfaces to the users. Right? Just it is giving the interfaces to the users. Just it will show. So, okay, this is the interface you can use. This is the interface you can use. That's it. But without providing the complexity of the implementation. Now you got it right. What is abstraction means? In the lower classes where you have submitted some project reports. In the project report, total 50 pages document, simply you are covering in a single paper. Where the team members information will be there, high level functionalities will be there in the abstract. Not the complexity, right? So end-to-end process will not be there in the abstract. The same thing in this abstraction where we are going to provide interfaces to the users. All these things we are going to cover in the coming classes. Okay. So in the coming class, one by one example, we are going to see all this. So we are going to provide interfaces to the users without providing the complexity of the implementation. What we have implemented, that we are not going to provide for the users. Just we are providing the interface. That's it. So whatever the logics inside this interface, whatever the complexity in that particular implementation, we are not going to provide to the users. So that is nothing but abstraction. Right? Now we understood about encapsulation and abstraction. Now coming to this inheritance. Inheritance. It is used to acquire like from one class to properties from one class to the another class. Inheritance, inherit. So from parent to child, we are getting some properties, right? The same thing here. So inheritance is used to acquire features of one class, acquire features of one class to another class. Okay, one class to another class. Why? So to reduce the reusability concept here, right? So every time we need to, no need to reuse the code here again and again, no need to write. So we can achieve the reusability concept, achieve the reusability here. So we can acquire the features or properties from one class to the another class. It is nothing but a inheritance. So that we can avoid duplicate coding. Simply we can say avoid duplicate code. So no need to write the code again and again. Simply in one class we are going to write the code and we are going to inherit the properties to the other class. That's it. And coming to this polymorphism. Poly means many. Poly means many. Morphism means forms. Many forms. It means polymorphism means forms. By using this polymorphism, this concept, multiple functions. We can define multiple functions with the same name, right? With the same name, but with a different signature, right? Different signature in the sense, so it can include number of properties, sorry, parameters, right? So we can define multiple functions with the same name, but with a different signature. Signatures in the sense, maybe parameters. Now, what are the types of parameters we are going to provide? Order of parameters. All this comes under signature. Right? Generally, we are having two types of polymorphism concepts here. So one is compile time polymorphism, compile time, and another one is runtime polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism. Okay. So this we can say that a static binding or early binding, we can say compile time or static binding or early binding. For this runtime means dynamic binding or late binding. Anything we can say here. Right? Here we are having under this polymorphism, we are having two concepts, compile time or runtime polymorphism concepts. In this compile time, we are having the feature known as overloading feature. Here we are having known as, remove this. Okay. So what is the first one? Compile time, right? Time polymorphism, or we can say static binding, or we can say or early binding, right? So under this compile time, it is achieved by means of this overloading concept, overloading feature, right? In this particular overloading, we are having method overloading, method overloading, and constructor overloading, constructor overloading. So all these things we are going to discuss. No issue on that. Okay. So coming to this runtime, runtime polymorphism or dynamic binding or late binding, right? Dynamic binding or late binding. So in this, we are having one feature known as overriding. Overriding feature. So this polymorphism concept can be achieved by means of overriding feature. Here overloading and overriding are the two features of polymorphism concept. So under this overloading, we are having method overloading and constructor overloading here. Okay, method overloading, constructor overloading. Under overriding, we are having one concept known as method overriding. Method overriding. Okay, so just a brief description. That's it. I'm not going in detail. So we are going to see examples with examples so that you can clearly understand. Okay. So encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism concepts. Hope you understand these four, right? Okay. Under this polymorphism, we are having overloading and overriding. So under overloading, how we are going to achieve this? Method of overloading, constructor of overloading, and under overriding, we are having method of overriding concepts. Okay. So now let us see the syntax of a class and what are the access specifiers that we are having in a particular class. Okay. Hmm. So what is the syntax for it? Class. What is the syntax here? So access specifier, right? Access specifier, class, and class name you have to write. That's it. Class name. Here you can define the members. Here you can define the members or we can write the business logic, all these things. Define members and write business logics. Okay, close it. That's it. So what is an access specifier here? What's access modifier also? Sometimes we can say access modifier, right? So in Salesforce, these are used to define the visibility. So access specifier or access modifier is used to define the visibility of these classes, methods, whatever the methods we are going to write it here. Methods, variables, we are going to write it here, right? Methods, variables, objects, all these things, right? And other components, right? So whatever the components functionalities are there, which we have written under this. So in order to be visible to others within the organization or outside the organization, right? So mainly these are access specifier or modifier used to define the visibility and accessibility of the classes, methods, variables. Okay. In general, we are having four types of access specifiers are there. Public, private, protected, and global, right? These are the four access modifiers which we are having inside the Salesforce, inside this Apex class, right? In the next class, we are going to see all these access specifiers. What is the public? What is the private? What is the protected? What is the global? And when we are going to use this individually, right? So all these things we are going to discuss in the next class. Okay. If you are having any doubts at any point of time, just mention in the comment section. I'm going to respond to those comments. And during the live sessions also, we are going to discuss all these things. Okay. Keep following this channel for the latest updates. Thank you.